On the past couple of real estate shows, we've been talking about procedures, methods and steps in order to get to a goal. And we addressed what procedures were, and we talked on the last show, sellers' procedures. This show, we want to talk to the buyers. It's the real estate show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. I am a broker here in the state of Connecticut and owner of Zone Realty LLC. You zone your home. I've been talking about procedures, and this is part of a series of shows that I'm doing here that talk about the different methods that are needed in order to accomplish the goal of owning a home. So in this particular case, we're going to talk to the buyers. Now, the first thing you're going to do, obviously, is you have to make the decision that you want to purchase a home. It could be a motivation that you want to be a homeowner. It could be there's been a change in your life. Maybe it's just time. There's a lot of reasons, but you've decided that you're going to venture out into the housing market and find a home to buy. Now, there's a lot of challenges that come along with that, and there's a lot of issues that come along with that, and there's a lot of stress that sometimes comes along with that. So you have to follow certain steps in order to get to that goal of home ownership. And this goes right along with my theme of procedures. What are those steps that you need to do as a potential buyer when you're looking to buy a home? Well, the first thing after you've made the decision is before you even start looking, you want to find out what it is you can afford. And the best way to do that is to talk to a lender. A lender, a mortgage officer, or your bank or your credit union that does mortgages is going to talk to you about your credit, your debt, your basically income that's coming in, and where you're in position as far as being able to buy a home. Before you do that, though, however, you kind of want to do a few little steps yourself. And again, this follows procedures. You want to learn, how do you pull your credit record? How do you see what's in your credit record? What is your credit score? Because a lot of times the banks or finances, are going to base everything on that FICO score. So you want to pull that and see what that is. You want to take an assessment of what your income is. How much am I making for my job? How much other income do I have? What is my total income that comes in? And you also want to go through the steps of analyzing your debt. Who do I owe? Who do I pay? How much money goes out compared to how much money comes in? Do I have any net worth? Those kinds of things. So you want to assemble all that. You're going to have to follow a number of procedures. You're going to have to go through the steps if you need to get statements from your bank. You're going to have to go through certain steps and methods if you need to get, credit card balances or whatever. But you're going to do all that homework so that when you finally sit down with a lending firm, you have all that information available. And they're going to verify stuff too. So you can't kind of sugarcoat it. It is what it is. Once you've done that, your next step will be to go to see that lender. The lender is going to look at your debts and your income and what your situation is, and they're going to pre-approve, or better yet, pre-qualify you for a potential mortgage. Now, it's kind of a challenge for them to do that because you haven't yet picked a home to buy, but what it does do is it does give you how much you can afford. We all look at houses on the internet. We go to different home sites. We glance at pictures. We look at homes. We look at areas. And then we think, wouldn't it be nice, or can I afford, or that's the house that works for me. But you want to make sure before you even get into the market that you're going to be able to afford the house. Especially now, because now in this particular market, if you decide you want to buy a house, you need to be in a position to make that offer. You can't make an offer and then backtrack and decide to go see a bank about getting a mortgage. You want to do as much as you possibly can before you do that. The next thing in the step of a procedure as a buyer is you want to get some counsel. You need an advisor. You need a trusted source on your side to help you navigate through the inventory and the homes that are out there for sale. And this, again, comes with hiring a realtor. You want to make sure that the realtor has the expertise and the knowledge for the areas to which you're searching in, and that they're going to take your wants and needs to heart. They're not going to take you out and show you houses you can't afford, or houses that are in areas that you don't necessarily want to be. Interviewing realtors, there are procedures for doing that. You want to contact a couple of realtors. You want to invite them to your apartment, or if you already have a home, to your home. You want to sit and talk with them, find out who they are, what they have to offer. You're going to be working with this person, and you're going to be trusting them with a lot of personal information. So just like the lender, you want to make sure you're comfortable working with the realtor. Now, once you have your mortgage in place, or potential mortgage, and you have the realtor in place, now you're going to start looking at homes. And now you can look at houses on the internet, you can look at pictures, you can look at locations and prices and all the different things you want to do. But there is a procedure that is in place for you as a buyer when you go out to look at homes. We call those showings. The realtor has the ability to book a showing with the seller through their listing agent, so that you can go at a specific time that's been chosen and agreed to go to the house and go in the house and see the home. Now, there are procedures and steps that the realtor must go through in order to get that showing to happen. First, they have to talk to you. When are you available to go see this home that you're interested in? Well, I'm available at such and such a time on such and such a day. The realtor then has to reach out to the other side, to the seller through their listing agent, and say, we would like to look at this home at such and such a time on such and such a day. They then have to wait, again, another step, for confirmation to come back. This means the seller has agreed that the buyer can come at that time, that day, to look at the home. And the realtor has procedures that they have to go through in order to be able to do that. They have to be able to know how to get into the house. They have to have secured lockbox codes. They have to know if there's any disclosures that the buyer needs to review. They've got to know if there's anything they need to be aware of before they go in the house. And all these things the realtor's going to do step by step. And then they're going to meet you and you're going to go to the home that you want to look at. Now, it goes one step further, because now there are steps or a procedure that's going to happen when you get to the home that you want to look at. First thing that's going to happen once the appointment's been set and agreed to and the realtor has the information on how to get into the house is going into the home. You're going to meet your realtor, step one. You're going to meet at the house. You're going to go to the front door of the house. The realtor's going to have the access code to use the lockbox to get the key to go into the house. That could be the front door, the side door, through the garage, whatever the arrangement has been made. And then you're going to go into the home. And it's really important that when you walk into the home, that you take a breath and you look at where you are and around the home from the position of the entry. That first 10 to 15 seconds that you're in the home, you're going to get what I call the buyer's vibe. You're going to get the feeling of, I want to see more, or this just isn't going to work for me. I talked on the seller show earlier that the sellers have to make sure that their homes are welcoming, that their homes have what the buyer wants to see. So as a buyer, you're going to take an assessment, and then you're going to go through the house. Now, the realtors will recommend how to walk through the house. This way you get to see the home house. Usually a realtor will not take you into attic spaces, and they will not take you into basement statements. That's a safety issue. But you can crawl into an attic if you want to see what's up there, and you can go walk around the basement, especially if it's a finished basement. You can do that. But usually the realtor will stand in the kitchen and allow you to go downstairs and view what you want to view, and then come up and have a discussion with them. There are certain things that you want to do, steps, when you're looking at a home, things you want to look at. You don't want to just necessarily look at the rooms and the bathrooms and the condition and the sizes and stuff like that, but you want to look at some of the mechanics. When you're down in the basement, take a look at the furnaces, an old furnace, a new furnace. Where is the fuse box, as they call it, or the electrical box? What kind of service is coming into the house? 100 amp, 200 amp, 400 amp, whatever. You kind of want to take a real quick peek at those things. And then when you're exiting the home, you want to have time to kind of look at the yard. Before you even get to the home, one of the steps that I recommend is that, say your appointment's at 10 a.m., you leave to go to the area and get there about 9:30. Not to the house, but to the neighborhood. Drive around the neighborhood, go down the side streets, try to figure out where the stores are, where a school is, where the churches are, whatever your needs might be. Get a sense of the area, because now that's going to be part of your buying decision when you go forward to buy the house. Now, once you've found the house, you've gone through the procedures of making the appointment with your realtor, and you've gone through the house and you've looked at it, now you're going to follow certain procedures in order to buy the house. Now, this means making an offer. What kind of offer do you make? Do you offer them full price? Do you offer over full price? Do you offer them less than full price? How is that done? What kind of paperwork has to exchange hands? What do you need to make the offer? Do you have to give them a lot of money up front or not? And if you do give them money up front, is that money at risk? These are all things that the realtor will guide you through, and they'll follow through the steps to make that offer. And try to structure your offer in such a way where you have a good chance of the seller accepting that offer. Now, you got to be realistic. The inventories now at this particular filming are not where they used to be. There's not that many houses that are for sale. So you're going to run into competition. As a buyer, as I said, you've got to follow those procedures, those steps to be prepared to buy. And you've got to also put in place procedures of what to do if there's a competitive thing going on to buy that particular home. We call that bidding wars. You might get another buyer that comes in and offers this for the home where you're offering this for the home, or maybe another buyer comes in and says they'll buy all cash. You want to be in a position that should you be involved in a multi-offer situation, you can position yourself where you have the best chance in order to get that contract. Let's say everything works out. Now you get the offer and the seller signs. And you now have a contract that is between you and the seller on purchasing that home. And that contract, again, will spell out what you're buying it for, how much you're putting down, how you're financing it, when you plan to close, when you're going to get your mortgage commitment, and so on and so forth. But it also gives you some options. Again, more procedures, more steps. And one of those things is to do inspections on the home. When you go out and you look at a home, you spend maybe 20 minutes or so driving around the neighborhood, and then maybe you spend 15 minutes walking through the house. And now you're making the decision to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to buy the home, right? Well, you want to have a chance to be in that home and kind of check it out, right? It's just like when you go, again, I'm going to use cars as an example. You go to buy a car, You want to take it for a test drive. You want to see how it rides. You want to see how it steers. You want to check out the mechanicals, right? So it's the same thing with a house. And you do this through the home inspector. Now, again, you're going to have to do your due diligence. The realtor may be able to recommend 2 or 3 inspectors that they've used in the past, but you've got to choose somebody. And they're going to set up a time and a date that's going to be coordinated with the seller and their agent to go to the home and spend a couple of hours, maybe longer, in the house, going through it from top to bottom. And you as the buyer need to be there. You can't just send an inspector to the house and not be there. You want to shadow the home inspector. In other words, you want to follow them around. Because home inspectors are very good at explaining to you things about the house and pointing out things that you need to be aware of. They'll explain to you the codes and if the house has the codes that it needs to. Is it up to date on its electrical and its heating and so on and so forth. Now, you don't have to get a ladder and go up on the roof, although I've seen some buyers do that. I don't recommend it. The home inspector is going to check out the roof and the chimney and things like that. But you do want to be available to talk to the home inspector once they've done their home inspection and ask questions. This is a procedure now. They're following some rules and regulations step by step as they're doing their inspection. You want to write down some questions that you want to talk to the inspector about. This is your real opportunity to really pull the covers back on what you're looking to buy and really get to know the house to make sure you're confident you're getting what you're spending the money on. So shadow the inspector and go through with them and ask them questions. Now, they're also going to present you with a home inspection report. So everything you discuss, everything they show, home inspectors are going to provide you with a report, and the report's going to show you, what it is they saw. They take pictures, and then they show the pictures, and they describe what's in the pictures. So you don't have to kind of remember everything. You're going to have a written report to look at. And one of the things that home inspectors do that I think is really nice is they're going to point out what should be done right away, what you should probably do maybe in the near future, and what you might be aware of to do in the distant future. This kind of gives you an idea of whether or not the home is going to need a lot of work right up front, or whether it's a home that you can move into and do little things along the way as you live in the home over time. So really important. Your realtor will set an appointment with you after the home inspection's done and you get the report to sit with you and go through the report. Because now we're at the next step. The next step being, the inspection's showing this. Now what? You're going to have to go through that inspection and you might have to renegotiate on the price if there's some things that need to be tended to right away. And you're going to go through all this with your realtor. Your realtor is going to walk you through all this. They're going to say, here's the kind of things that we can negotiate on. Here's the kinds of things that are just cosmetic that you're going to have to take care of yourself. The next step in the process will be the bank sending out the appraiser. And of course, the appraiser has to make sure the house is worth what you're buying it for, correct? And if not, well, we'll talk about that in a future show. Once the appraisal is done, you'll get your mortgage approval. And once you get your mortgage approval, all that information has to go to your attorney. By all means, if you're going to close on something that's this expensive, have an attorney watching everything, watching your back. Your realtor is great for information and showing the house, but realtors are not attorneys. There are some legal steps that have to be gone through in order to close on the house. And this is what the attorney's for. And the attorney's going to set up the closing date. Their paralegals are going to get in contact with the lender, in contact with the realtor. They're going to go through and schedule when the closing's going to be. They're going to give you ahead of time what you're going to need and so on and so forth, and coordinate everything with the seller side for you to be able to close and get the title and the keys to the home. Now, it doesn't stop just there. There's more procedures. There's more steps that you have to go through, right? You've bought a home. You've gone through the inspections, you've gone through the appraisals, you've gone through the mortgage process and all this, and now you own the home and you get the keys. Now what's the next step that you do? Well, the next step that you have to do, obviously, is you got to move in. More procedure, more buyer chores to do. Have you interviewed moving companies? Have you decided that you're going to move yourself? Are you going to go rent a van and get your relatives together and load up the van and move everything yourself? And when are you going to do that? I've been in a situation over my career where people have sold their home, put everything in the van, and then there's a difficulty closing on the next home, and stuff has to stay in the van a day or two before they're able to unload it at the new property. You have to think about, if you're going to hire professional movers, what they're going to move. Sometimes people that save a little money will move the light stuff like their clothing and, dishes and plates and stuff like that, kids' toys, whatever it might be, themselves, and they let the movers handle the furniture. Some people move it all by themselves. They get help and they move everything out. If you're moving by yourself and you're renting a truck, now you have to think about the steps on getting the truck, renting the truck, how long you're going to have it, when you're going to return it, how you're going to put the things in the truck. What room are you going to start to empty first? How are you going to load? You always want to put in first what you're going to take off last. You don't want to ever be in a situation where the truck backs up and all of a sudden you need that item that's way at the back of the truck and you have to empty half the truck out into the driveway in order to get the item that you need. So you have to write things out, make a plan, go through the steps, the procedures on how you're going to load the truck. Now once you've done all that and you've now moved into the house, it's not done yet. Now you have the chore of unpacking all the boxes and putting everything away, right? I always say to a buyer, you need to have 1 or 2 boxes that have everything in them. It has what you need in order for you to be comfortable while you're unpacking the other stuff. You don't want to be in a situation where you move into the house and then it's dinner time and you're going to cook dinner and you can't find the pots and pans that you need in order to cook, or the dishes and plates you need in order to eat, right? So you want to put together a couple of boxes that have the toiletries in them and have maybe the set of sheets for the beds in them, and have what you need immediately while you're settling in, because you don't want to try to unpack everything in one day, right? It's going to take time. And if you've packed everything in such a way where you can kind of distribute it amongst the rooms that it's going into, label the boxes, this makes it a lot easier to unpack everything and distribute it in your new home the way that you're going to be comfortable. Now, having said all that's done. While you're living in the home, you're going to change things around. So it might be perfect if you can get everything in the way you want it and everything's fine and all you got to worry about is making that first mortgage payment. But you're going to change things around because we all unpack things and we're in unpacking mode. We're just trying to find places for stuff to go, right? As you're living there, you may decide that, well, I put this stuff in this cabinet, it doesn't work in this cabinet, I'm going to put it over in that cabinet. Or I don't like the way I set up this closet, you're going to change it. But that all comes over time. So procedures, everything from the start of deciding to buy a home and all the different steps as you go through to get that home ownership and then move into the home and live into the home. And let's not forget, if you're moving into a new neighborhood, a new state, a new area, a lot of stuff got to be done to set up all that stuff too. My name is Rick Naples, and this has been The Real Estate Show. On the next show, I'm going to talk about a few more procedures, and we'll get into the actual inspections a little bit more. Thank you for watching.
The Saybrook Fish House in Canton has been serving fresh seafood, chicken, and prime steaks for 40 years. Experience one of our 3 unique dining room settings, 2 with fireplaces, or relax in our cozy pub with a craft beer, wine by the glass, or specialty cocktail while enjoying a meal from our new lighter fare pub menu. Serving lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Reservations accepted for parties of 2 to 42. Gift cards always available. The Saybrook Fish House, nestled at the crossroads of routes 44, 202, and 179 in Canton.
Like us on Facebook. Search Nutmeg TV.